Today on Only Frames, we bring you semi-final action from our Pairs Cup competition. We're down to the final four, and today's matchup sees Mark and Gary taking on Scott and Chris in a first of 5 match situation. Now, if you'd like to see what unfolded to get down to our semi-final situation and how 7 were turned into 4, all our challenge videos remain available within our YouTube page. We undertook all kinds from card killer to penalty shootouts with restrictions on top of you. We even tried the odd trick shot, which did not go very well at all. But we are the home of below average 8 ball, so what were we expecting? But over to today's action we go. We've got Mark and Gary at the table, and they're playing yellows against Scott and Chris, who are playing reds. First of all, we're starting off with a Scotch pairs game. After that, Gary will be taking on Chris and Mark will be taking on Scott, and each time you win a frame you get a point for your team, and it's first of 5 wins. After those singles has been contested, we're going to have another game of pairs where the other singles players will be competing against each other. So Chris plays Mark and Scott plays Gary, and we'll continue with that system until we find ourselves a winner. And if you've been able to keep up with that, keeping up with this below average 8 ball, it's going to be no problem whatsoever. Scott and Chris are now at the table. They are playing reds, and this is a real great opportunity for them to get the first point of the day on the board. Scott is currently at the table with the light reflecting off his shiny dome. He must have had a little bick up before coming down the boozer today, and he pots a lovely one up into the top left hand onion bag. He's not normally known for his attacking prowess, and he's known for his defensive capabilities. He's Mr. Pragmatism on the day today, but today with Chris as his partner, will he come out of his shell? Can a leopard change his spots? He'd normally look for a safety here, but he's going to look to play this one down to the bottom left, and that's why he doesn't play attacking shots too often. He doesn't have the potting capabilities required to pot the balls when it comes down to it, when it comes down to the crunch. He has managed to get a blocker in, so Mark hasn't got an easy one down to the bottom left, and he's going to need to come up with a bit of magic if himself and Gary are going to clear the table at this visit here. He looks like he's going to take on the double. No, it's a chip down to the bottom right. He's tried to force it in there, and second place, he's hoping to cover the bag, but he was unable to do that, and this now is surely a gimme for these two players. Only 5 reds are remaining, and they are all there. Little roll in here down to the bottom right, and they'll probably leave themselves a middle one, although I'd go up to the top of the table and leave that last red to get nicely on the 8 ball after. Scott, however, has decided to take that one into the middle, leaving just the reds up the top of the table to contend with after Chris rolls this one in nicely. Now, personally, I cannot see any problems here for Scott and Chris to take a 1-0 lead. All the reds are there. The only real issue is going to be a bit of positioning from the last red down to the 8 ball, but hold my beer. Scott decides he's going to miss an absolute sitter and hand the initiative of the frame over to Gary and Mark. Scott potted a lovely one up to the top left to start proceedings, but since then it has gone downhill rapidly for him. He's down to just 25% pot success, which is high for him, but it's not going to be good enough to find a place in our final. This is a Pairs Cup, and you need to be elite to lift the first and ever trophy that we put on offer on this channel. Now, Mark's going to look to send one down to the bottom right. Positioning should be pretty natural. It's all about weight here, which we all have a problem with for sure. We all love to indulge every now and again, and Mark's overindulged and hit the cue ball a bit too hard. He needed a couple of inches off that, and if Brad had a couple of inches off him, he'd be non-existent. The guy is tiny. He says he's 6 foot. I'm telling you, he's 5'1" at best. He's my playing partner, but I need to be truthful. He's a tiny little man. The camera makes him look so much bigger. Maybe we put the zoom on when he's playing, and maybe that pocket looked bigger than it was to Gary. He can only rattle it, bringing Chris and Scott back to the table with another opportunity to take a 1-0 advantage. But surely now it's going to be over with Chris at the table. Is he going to play the plant, or is he going to look to get lucky with a positional shot? And he's looked to get lucky, and he has hasn't left Scott a gimme. Scott's potting so far today hasn't been fantastic, but it's going to need to improve if he wants to take this down to the bottom right. He's playing it dead weight, and that's not a good cue ball. Even if the red had gone in, Chris would have been in a world of trouble, snookered by the 8 ball, giving Mark and Gary an opportunity, another one, to finally end this first frame. I'm hoping throughout this game that the standard improves. These are some of the better players on the channel, and so far it's not lived up to the billing. That wasn't a bad positional shot to get it back round the yellow, but he's left Gary long. Does Gary have the minerals to take this one to the bottom left, and more importantly, leave Mark with a shot on the 8? If he can't, Scott and Chris will be waiting there to gobble it up with that red sat over the bottom right hand pocket. Now, Gary is taking his time here, a little bit for him. He's giving it the respect it deserves, and he pots it nicely, bringing the cue ball round off 2 cushions. Now, that's some shot. He's given Mark a chance. This really has to go. If you want to win these big games, it needs to drop, and it does. They take a 1-0 lead as we move on to the second frame. And up next, we have Gary versus Chris in a singles matchup. And as ever, we are playing black ball rules. As we move on to this second matchup, surely the quality is going to improve here. We've got Chris, who remained undefeated on the channel for nearly 2 years, and Gary, the young pretender, the man who's put the cat amongst the pigeons since he joined just over a year ago. He's been up there knocking on the door, trying to win the competition throughout, and he always does very well. So hopefully here he can step up his game and deliver Chris another blow to take an early 2-0 lead, but he can't do that all the time. He's not at the table, and Chris now looks like he's in full flight, like a thoroughbred racehorse without the phallus, of course, going through the motions and starting to go through the gears. He's only got the 3 reds remaining, and he's gonna look to take this to the top right, but that's abysmal from Chris. Chris, you're better than that, son, bringing Gary to the table for the first time in this singles matchup, and he'll be looking to pot one down to the bottom right hand pocket, which Gary is unable to do. Is he succumbing to the pressure of the presence from his opponent? As I said, Chris is a former champion on the channel, and sometimes you beat before you even start to play when you think your opponent's better than you. I expected more from Gary. He's a confident man, and hopefully throughout this matchup you will see that. He's laid back, he's in the flip-flops like Gandhi, but without the brains. Chris now 2 reds remaining, going to look to take this up to the top left, and it's all about position from here. Can he get onto that last red? We'll never know, because he's blocking the way. He's giving it a little shimmy like Shirley Ballas doing those hips. Get him on Strictly. No, he would be out super quick. That guy cannot dance. He's got no rhythm. But when it comes to the pool table, he's poetry in motion on his day. Where's he going to take this? Into the middle pocket or up to the top right? Either or will do. He takes it to the middle, little nudge on the 8. And surely now we're about to level up this game. It's going to be 1 apiece. It wiped his feet, but it goes in. We move on to the third match. Now, in our third matchup, we have Mark versus Scott, who would make a great Right Said Fred tribute act. But will this game be deeply dippy, or will it be too sexy for this Only Frames content? Mark's currently at the table, and he's playing yellows, and now only 5 of them remain. But you'd say that so far Scott has the upper hand within this frame. He's got a blocker to the middle pocket on the right-hand side. He's got a blocker to the top left, and his other ball's out in the open with that 8 ball sat there as well. But Mark remains at the table. Scott can't win if he is not there. Well, he can actually, because Mark could pot the 8 ball, but disregarding that, if you're not at the table, you can't win. But it doesn't matter, because Scott is now coming to the table anyway, and these 3 reds are in a pretty good spot. The only tricky one he's got, can he get on that red, which is by the right-hand side middle pocket? Maybe it doubles across to the other middle. Let's wait and find out. Well, he can't even pot that first one. That's disappointing from Scott, and I no doubt this game has been heavily edited, because we come halfway through, and there's still missing balls. So what happened before? That's what I want to know. Mark's pondering, is he still awake, or is he thinking of his meds at bedtime this evening? He's having a little think, taking his time. Come on, do something, man. He's going to free up the only tricky ball Scott's got. Now, that's brave from him. Mind you, Scott's other red is now in a problem situation down the bottom left-hand pocket. As he comes to the table, he's going to roll this one in, and he should be able to get on that last tricky ball and take it down to the bottom right. He does indeed roll it into the middle, and he's got himself a shot to knock this one down to the bottom right. But can he pot it down there? No. But Scott's success rate is now down to just 17% in this video. That's still pretty good for him, but he's got to up its game. Chris is relying on him to win the odd frame here and there. And Mark, the ever honest man, he's admitted to a foul. But I can assure you, there is no guarantees that Scott is going to take this opportunity out, although it's the easiest one I've ever seen. He's going to use his free ball, because we're playing black ball rules, where you get a shot on a visit, and he's going to look to pot his red to the top left, leaving that one down to the bottom right. He's hit that a bit harder than I thought he would. Maybe he could have just rolled it and left it by the pocket, but no, this guy likes to do things by chance. He rolls that one and gets a lucky positional shot. I can tell you now, he wouldn't have aimed for the cue ball to be there. It couldn't have worked out any better. He rolls it in, and Chris and Scott take a 2-1 lead as we go into another pairs game for the fourth match of this semi-final lineup. Now, as we get this pairs matchup underway, it seems a great opportunity for me to point you in the direction of all of our other socials. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok, and of course, we are on here, YouTube, where you're currently watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share our stuff. We appreciate all your interactions, and it gives us great ammunition to abuse each other with. Half of the jokes I say on Scott stuff that I've got off you guys that you guys have noticed, and once again Scott's giving me great material, missing a gimme down the line, bringing Gary to the table, who'll be looking to even up this match as quickly as possible and to make it Desmond. He's going to roll this one into the top left-hand pocket, leaving Mark nicely on that yellow to the top right, and this could be a real opportunity for the follically challenged wonders. Mark today is dressed as his idol Tiger Woods, red on Sunday when Tiger was winning all those majors uncontested. When he was at his peak, he was dominating the world, but hopefully Mark can follow in them traits rather than get addicted to the drink, the drugs and the hookers. I can actually assure you that that will never happen, as all of those things are banned from the care home that Mark is currently in. It's a nightmare filling the paperwork each time just to get him out for the day, let alone trying to sneak in contraband like that. He comes back to the table, and once again they're in deliberation, but this opportunity seems to be getting harder each time they come back. All the easy balls are disappearing and they've run out of them, bringing Chris to the table, and him and Scott only have the 3 reds remaining for them to take an unassailable 3-1 lead into a race of 5. Surely from there they won't be caught, but there's still a long way to go until that, while the pair deliberate over what to do with this shot going forward. The deliberation goes on, and this is a real issue within Scotch doubles pairs for sure. Each player wants to have their 2 penneth worth, and it seems to take forever. Do you think we should introduce a shot clock? For me, I think it's essential, especially when I'm commentating. These guys are milking it bad. Let's start calling them Cravendale. But at least after all that deliberation, Chris actually managed to pot, which may not have been the case if Scott had been at the table, but the deliberation goes on. He's asking Scott to screw him behind, and maybe that red goes into the left-hand middle. If it does, this isn't, but no, he's overcooked it. He's hit it too hard, but he may get away with one. Maybe in Chris taking this on at this angle, they're going to free up the 8 ball. They're going to need a bit of luck on their side for sure, but this is no gimme for Chris. These aren't easy into a blind pocket, but he makes it look that, but he's cannoned into the yellow, blocking Scott's path to pot that down to the bottom right. All he's going to do here is hit and hope. They're going to discuss it for about 8 minutes, I am sure, and eventually it's going to come down to a Hail Mary. But how's your luck? I'm going to leave this up to the deliberation of these two, because I can't feel the air forever. I'm not a thesaurus, I'm not made of words, so let's just leave it and see how long it actually takes for Scott to just smack it and hope for the best. Well, I'll tell you what, he's actually down on a shot a lot quicker than I thought it'd be. He's come off the cushion, he's hit it up the rear, and what a shot that is by Scott. He hit it up the rear and he played it down to the bottom left. A moment of genius from Einstein himself. As we move on to the fifth game, and it's Mark versus Chris. Mark was at the table, he missed, but he hasn't left Chris easy. Chris is playing reds, Mark is playing yellows, and the score currently stands at 3-1 to Chris and Scott. Can Mark and Gary finally claw one back here and start to make a real fist of this? Because we know these boys both love a good fisting. Chris decides he's going to come off that top cushion and try and pot it. He could actually hit it, but he's gone for the pot. He's gone for the attacking option. It wasn't meant to be, and he's pushed that red a bit safer onto that left-hand side cushion. But Mark can't punish him. He's looked to maybe snooker again. That's a terrible shot. He's missed the pot. He's missed the snooker. And worst of all, he's left Chris a double. If Chris can sink this, and surely it'll be 4-1 if he can, but he's unable to do so, giving Mark another bite at the cherry. And it's ironic that he is dressed in cherry as it stands. He's now blocking the camera while he's having to think about which shot to undertake. He's going to look to surely play one of them balls towards the top right and leave Chris with a tricky cue ball, no doubt. A little shot to nothing, if you will. He's actually cannoned the yellow on the way through there, and he's left Chris a shot on this red once again. Chris will not miss many more of these. We'll never know if he pots it as Mark stands in the way of the camera. It goes down towards the bottom left, but it doesn't go in as we see it bounce back out. Mark comes back to the table and he still has 4 yellows remaining. Now, as Mark blocks the camera once again, it serves as a great reminder that his and Noel's and Gary's and anyone's head remains available for advertising space. So if you'd like to get a message printed onto their heads for a reasonable fee, get in the comments and let us know. Mark with a lovely shot there up to the top right, and he's going to look to get creative again. Here he comes off the cushion, he sends it towards the top right. That's a great shot. Not only has he secured the pocket, he's also stitched Chris once again. He's a master of his craft, Mark, and he's showing all his years of experience. Chris doesn't know what to do. He's going to look to play a one cushion escape, no doubt, but will he hit it, or will Mark take the opportunity to narrow this gap down to 1? Chris indeed is looking to play it off one cushion, and he manages to hit it in a half attempt at a pot there, but it was unable to go. And once again, that red goes over towards a cushion where it's been so many times before. Mark's going to surely look to play the plant up to this top right hand side, but of course he has the issue of that yellow tucked there just above the middle pocket that doesn't look as though it goes. He was unable to play the plant, bringing Chris back to the table. He won't miss many more of these. These aren't easy though, down to the bottom right, and then you've got to hold for the 8 ball as well. That's not going to prove to be easy. Neither did the pot. He's unable to take it, giving Mark another chance. But what can he do here? Can he muster up a bit of form? So far today we haven't seen the best of him, but surely now we are going to see something. Takes the thin one and leaves the other one sat over the hole, and now this is all about position. Will he look to free it up, or does it go into the middle? It must go, because he hasn't looked to free it up whatsoever. Does it drop into the middle, or is he going to take it long? It probably goes into the middle. It's thin, but not that thin for him, and this is a great chance to make it 3-2. 8 down to the bottom right. He's beaten Chris, and what a win for the big man. Is this the start of a great comeback as we move on to Gary versus Scott in about frame 6? I think, I can't remember. I'm losing the plot, and I must be seeing things with Scott potting balls as well. Scott is at the table and he is playing the red ones, and Gary only has 4 yellows remaining. Gary will be licking his lips at the opportunity of leveling this game up at 3 apiece. He'll believe he's a better player than Scott, but Scott's potted 2 in a row. That doesn't happen often, and can he make it 3? Yes, he can, but he can't get position on that final red. Little nudge on the 8 ball didn't work in his favour, and he's going to look to have to come up with something here as we have someone in front of the camera. Get out the way. Is that me? Is that me? No, it's not me. That's Steve, who looks nothing like me. Okay? Everyone in the comments keeps saying he does. He's not my long lost brother. He's not. Okay? We're not related. he's also a very good looking guy. And speaking of good looking, here's Gary at the table, and that's a great looking shot, but he's unable to get position. Is he going to come off this cushion here, try and bang into that red, which is just above the 8, and lay a little snooker? No, it looks like he maybe wants to attempt and try and do something with this one down into the bottom right. I've never seen anyone get the rest out on a pool table. Are we about to see it here? No, we're not. He's once again looking at that off the cushion where I suggested ages ago, Gary, get your brain in the game. I'm giving you the shots here, man. He was unable to get the stitch, but once again, Scott's red is in a problematic position, and he's going to need to play at least a double if he wants to try. But no, he's coming off the cushion. This guy loves a cushion. He's actually better at potting them off the cushions, but he's unable to this time, giving Gary a real chance to make this game 3 apiece. As Gary comes to the table, you're looking to see where the problematic ball is. I suppose you could say that one up, going up towards the top left. The one he's just pointing at is his trickiest ball, but it's not out. It's not in a hard place. It's all just about position. But can he do that between these two yellows beforehand? He's played the double there, which he was unable to pot. It chipped in the middle, surely, and you'd have got a better position, man. I can't believe he's done that. Bringing Scott back to the table once again. Chris can't take the drama of this. He's had to go and sit down and rest his weary legs. So Scott plays a double and he hits the knuckle. That looked all but in. That is unlucky there from Scott, who is really pulling it out the bag in this game against Gary. He must be a big game player, Scott. Normally he just wilts under pressure, but today he's rising to the occasion, and Gary does not know what has hit him. His potting capabilities have deserted him, and once again he's unable to find the bag, but he does find a good cue ball. And is he going to double good? No, he's not. It looked like he was even going to get the stitch there as well. And no doubt Scott is going to come off this cushion, as he is better at potting balls when he hits a cushion first than he is at just chipping them in when they're over the hole. He's Hollywood in this. He's making it look harder than it is. It chips in, man. Stop messing around. He's talking to Chris. Oh, look at me. I'm going to take it off the cushion just so everyone thinks I'm good. You're an idiot. You're a wally. You're an absolute disgrace to the attacking pool society that I remain chairman of. And once again, off the cushion, he pots it. He should do that more often. And now he's got an 8 down to the bottom left to take the most unlikely victory away from Gary. Can he hold his nerve? He hits a heart of the pocket. It's 4-2 as we move on to the 7th game. We join the 7th game with Chris at the table, and they are playing the red balls, and they are sat nicely on the hill, whilst Mark and Gary are in the last chance saloon. They can't afford to lose one more frame, but of course they'll remain hopeful. All the time there is balls in play, they've got a chance until that last 8 ball is sank. Chris is telling Scott exactly what he wants for him. He wants to be left on that red up to the top right hand pocket, and that was nowhere near Chris had asked it to be. He's actually now decided he's going to take a different ball after that shower of shot from Scott, and he tries to sink it up to the top left, and that's a great pot from Chris. And this once again is a great opportunity to see out this final matchup. Scott's got to pot this one to the top left. It should be a natural cue ball to leave Chris a choice of the 2 reds over by the right hand pocket, and that wiped his feet. And within wiping its feet, it's left that cue ball a lot further away than it needed to be. This is a lot harder than it should have been, and this now is going to prove difficult for Chris to swing this white round to get back onto the last red. It should have been easy from here for these two. That cue ball needed to be about 8 inches further down the table, if not more. Maybe I've been generous to Scott there. Chris once again pots a lovely ball, and it's over to Scott to find something to secure this victory for his team. Send this one down to the bottom right. Just a plain cue ball, and that's it halfway up the cushion. We are the home of below average 8 ball, but that's abysmal. That's a disgrace. That is absolutely shocking from Scott, bringing Mark to the table, and all of a sudden there is life in the old dogs yet. Now Mark's pottering around the table, probably thinking about what he's going to have for tea later, but he needs to get his head in the game. They've got 3 yellows remaining, and luckily one of them is close in by that 8, making it difficult for Chris and Scott when they finally get back to the table, as I for one can't see a scenario where they're going to clear up from here, Mark and Gary. That is. He's tried to free up both balls. It's not the worst attempt from Mark, but I personally would have probably kept that yellow nice and tight to the 8 ball just for a few further shots until you guarantee yourself a shot and a visit, which they could have quite easily done due to the position of the red that Chris and Scott had, and Chris can only find the jaw. He went for the double and he'd left the 8 on, and surely now for Mark and Gary these need to go. The red once again is in a tricky position, but Scott coming off the cushion, he's been potting them all day long. Are they going to look to double this one themselves? They can screw the white back slightly and leave that one to the middle, take that one down to the bottom left, then it's game over with the 8 ball sat there very nicely indeed. But no, he's played it with top. That's a curious shot. He's actually playing it as a shot to nothing, but I'm telling you now, Scott could pot this. He could hit it up the rear. He's been hitting things up the rear his whole life, and it's always worked out well for him. Apart from that situation, that's nowhere near. That's like his normal potting capabilities, bringing Mark to the table, and surely now something has to happen. Chris and Scott aren't going to keep missing forever, and it seems like Mark and Gary have been on 3 balls for ages as Mark miscues at the worst moment in time, and he starts playing a cricket defence shot. He was taking his guard, ready to fend off Joffa Archer, but he's got to fend off Chris and Scott, who now look certain to get their place into the final. Chris picks up the cue ball because we are playing black ball rules, which you can do so you can put it anywhere behind the line, and he's now got a shot and a visit. He's going to look to maybe roll this one towards the middle pocket, give Scott the chance to roll it in and get Chris on position to sink the winning 8 ball. He's probably hitting that a bit far, you know. I think he'd have wanted to leave that straighter, and this is all about position. Scott just blasts it. He hopes for the best, and it looks like he might snooker Chris. No, it's poked his head out. He's managed to get past that yellow, but does it go down to this bottom left? I'm not sure it does. Chris is down on it. He's down on it quickly. Is this for the match? He sends it towards it. It's not gone in. It's sat up there, but it has left Mark and Gary in a world of hurt. It's sat over the pocket where they have a yellow. Yes, there's an easy snooker, but will it be enough? If he hits it, it goes in. He's only got to make contact. But are they going to hope that Scott flicks a yellow on the way through and in theory loses a frame just based on that? Gary pots one, which seems bizarre to me. I don't know why he potted that up to the top right-hand pocket, because you can't win the frame from there. I'm not sure what they're thinking here. Gary's now pointing to the side saying, leave the cue ball over here. That's what you could have done. You had the better option to do so. Maybe Mark's going to look to pot this and play the snooker. They're going to roll on to the yellow. Mark manages to pot it, but this is all about dead weight. He can't hit it too hard because he's going to pot the 8, and he can't hit it too soft. You need to make contact with a cushion after you've played a snooker. That's the way these rules work. This is anything but easy for Gary, and I'm calling it now. I think he's going to hit it, and I think he's going to pot the 8. I think he's going to get the adrenaline. He went for the skill shot. That was never on, and they lose. They're out 5-2. What a way to lose. They've gone out with a whimper as Chris and Scott charge on to the final. Don't forget to tune in to see if they can be crowned our first ever winners of the Pairs Cup competition.